Good afternoon. My name is Edgar Palacios. I am the founder of Revolución Educativa, and we're an organization based in Kansas City that's really working to build sustained collective power within the Latino community around issues of education. This is one of our Revved Up episodes, and so I'm excited that we're going to have a special guest today with us, Ben Molina from the Hispanic Leaders Group of St. Louis. But before we get to that, just want to say that there's a lot of things that are going on in our country and in our community today. And this is kind of a forum that we want to make sure that we're sharing as much information as we know, that the information is accurate and helpful, and that we are empowering our community or supporting our community, ensuring that they know that they have a voice in what's happening in this moment. And so with that being said, I'm going to welcome Ben Molina to join me here on the stage. Hey, Ben, how are you doing today?
Hello, sir. I'm well. How are you?
We were just talking just a little bit about this. It has been a crazy past couple of weeks, but there is work to do, and we have people who are energized and fired up and ready to go. And so, overall, doing well. How are you doing?
Good. I've been really inspired by the energy of people wanting to organize and collaborate and really just work together to support, I think, our most vulnerable community right now, which is those that are undocumented. And so, despite all of the happenings, I think there's a lot of good work happening and a lot of good people that are supporting the community.
Yeah. Um, we have you have a couple of initiatives that are coming up that I'm interested in talking about. But what are you seeing that concerns you in this moment? I know that you were advocating, I think, on against SB 72, which I think is the bounty hunter bill that was being at least promoted at the legislature.
Yeah, so right now there's a handful of bills that we're tracking that are anti-immigrant, anywhere from creating making it a felony to live in Missouri undocumented, to giving the police or state highway patrol more power in Missouri to work with the federal government, to punishing cities and governments that will take care of those individuals. So there's really a lot to be concerned of right now. And we have been Hispanic Leaders Group has existed for the last 42 years, and I've been in this position for the last 2 years. And every year that we go to Jefferson City, we always see anti-immigrant bills. And we're not just talking, when we go there, we're not just saying that it impacts undocumented immigrants, it impacts those that are authorized to live here as well.
Yeah, I would offer up to say that it impacts everybody, right, in
Yep.
negative ways. I think when we talk about immigration and not see it in a positive light, I think we're also reducing and removing the incredible impact that immigrants have in our community, not just economically, right? I think that we would agree that there's a lot of jobs in the state of Missouri that are done by immigrants, that they provide economic benefit to our state and our communities. But that's not the only reason they're valuable, right? Like there's cultural benefits, there is energy and innovation and ideas and promise and all these other things that immigrants bring to our communities in our state.
Absolutely. And I think that's just been our ask in general. We need to make Missouri a welcoming place for everybody who wants to live here, who wants to move here, who wants to contribute to Missouri. It's really a great place to live. I moved to St. Louis from Washington, D.C. 10 years ago now, and I absolutely fell in love with St. Louis. I love living in Missouri, but I'm concerned about the policies that are being introduced and that are signed into law, and the executive orders that are signed, because we're really seeing a population decline
Mm.
in Missouri, and one of the solutions is attracting more immigrants.
Yeah, I think that that's actually, I appreciate you sharing that. And that is a real concern, right? Our economy depends on a strong population, and Missouri needs to do a better job of being a desirable state to live in some ways. Um, I've been familiar with the Hispanic Leaders Group for a few years myself. I know I've been invited to participate in Hispanic Capitol Day. I know that there's one coming up. When is the next Hispanic Capitol Day?
Yeah, so we're gearing up to go to Jefferson City for Hispanic Capitol Day on February 18th. So in just a few short weeks. And this year is extra special because we're partnering with the Missouri Policy Immigrant Coalition. And so, because we know it's not just the Hispanic community in St. Louis, it's the immigrant community statewide. And we're really trying to do a good due diligence to make sure that Latinos and the Hispanic population is represented across the state. So February 18th, and there's still time to sign up.
Yeah, we're excited. I think I just counted. We have about 10 people that have signed up, and we are with Revolución Educativa, Revved. We are getting a bus, and we are bringing folks down to be in solidarity, but also to learn about what it's like to go to the Capitol and meet with legislators and talk to them about the issues that are important to the Hispanic community. Um,
Yes. I think there's a lot of ways, and just talking about, how to create change, there's a lot of ways to do that. And Hispanic Capital Day has always been an important way to build relationships with our elected officials, especially at the state level, which we don't get to do on a regular basis. And so the day is really involved around showing up in Jefferson City, sharing our stories as Latinos, as Hispanic, as immigrants about how we feel living in Missouri, what's going well, what's not working, discussing those issues that are important to us and those bills that, could harm us. But it's really trying to build good faith relationships with the people that represent us. And I think sometimes that's scary for people because they're not quite sure what to expect. And I always try to reassure them that no matter who you're talking to, they're always going to be respectful and listen to you for the most part.
Yeah, it is. It's a frightening experience in some ways, right? One, you're going to Jeff City, so you're at least from Kansas City, you're 2 hours away. Two, you're going into this big building that is can be confusing. You don't know what the protocols are, how to get all this other stuff. But yeah, like going to a legislator and talking to them about an issue or just introducing yourselves can be an intimidating process. But I think that that's where we have the most power, right? Being able to communicate and shake their hands and say, hey, these are the issues that we either agree with or disagree with. And here's why we care about this. I think that's such an important exercise in our community, right? The ability to say we have power and we have the ability to influence people simply just by talking to them and getting them to know what our issues are.
Absolutely. And I think another part of this is just showing up, showing, this group of Latinos who are interested in policy, who are interested in working together with these elected officials to make Missouri a welcoming place. That's super important. Last year, we got a comment from an elected official that they had never seen so many Latinos in Jefferson City interested in this. So, which is why we were so intentional about making this accessible to everybody statewide. So we have folks from Springfield coming, from Kansas City, St. Louis, Columbia, because there's so many people that are interested in doing this work, and this is an avenue for them to be able to access that.
What's one thing that you've learned in participating in an activity like Hispanic Capitol Day?
Kind of to your point, I think the hardest part is just talking with your legislator. The first time it's awkward, you're not quite sure what to say, but it's really just like having a regular conversation. Oftentimes I start a conversation talking about the Cardinals or the Chiefs, something that's relatable that everybody can get behind. But then we get down into the serious stuff, and I let them know, this is why I'm here. I've been seeing this specific legislation or, these legislations coming down. This is how it impacts me. Especially as immigrants, the American government system is so confusing. And so just being given an opportunity to participate and be part of that is really rewarding and eye-opening.
I appreciate you sharing, right? It again, those conversations are crucial. And I think one of my recent takeaways, I've been able to participate already twice this year, going down to Jefferson City and supporting different initiatives and being a part of those conversations. But one thing I've also heard from legislators is that they don't get that many visitors. And particularly, they don't get that many visitors from constituents, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's something to be said about taking the time going down there, and that FaceTime is critical. And I don't think I recognize the value in that even until recently.
Yeah, and this is really just a stepping stone because Hispanic Capital Day is only one day out of the year that folks can engage with their elected officials. Um, you can call them, you can email them, you can stop on your own to Jefferson City, or if they have a local office, to talk with them. So we hope to break that barrier for folks, or break that ice, so that folks feel more likely to reach out to their elected officials in the future.
What are you seeing in St. Louis as issues of concern? I know that in Kansas City, there's a lot of fear around ICE and immigration, and a lot of misinformation, and trying to figure out who is doing what and how are people serving who, and that kind of stuff. Are you seeing similar energy in St. Louis? What are the concerns of St. Louisans?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing that we're trying to battle is misinformation. The new administration started a few weeks ago, and so much has been happening. It's been hard for everybody to keep up with what's happening, being able to digest that and then put that back out to the public. And so what we're seeing is news articles, social media posts being shared with inaccurate information. And so what we do at Hispanic Leaders Group is we try to intervene and put out accurate information, or point to resources like the American Immigration Council, which puts out information regularly to kind of combat that.
Yeah, I'm also curious about how you're organizing the community as well, right? We know that Latinos are incredibly diverse. Latinos are members of all political parties. There's disagreement within our community around these issues. How are you thinking about that in your group?
Yeah, so the Latino community, the Hispanic community, is not a monolith. And as a 501c3 organization who's nonpartisan, we have to be able to communicate to everybody. But there are key issues that everybody aligns with. I think UNIDO's put out a report of the 2024 Hispanic electorate, and people talked about the economy, inflation, workforce. Those are all, and safety, things that everybody can get behind. So we organize by hosting meetings. There's Hispanic Leaders Group is not the only one that's doing this work. There's a lot of other organizations, immigrant organizations, that are hosting educational seminars, both in person and online, that are being really well attended, because I think people are eager for that information.
Yeah, I just want to quickly shout out Lucerita. Thank you so much for being here and joining us for this conversation. And just an invitation to those that are watching right now. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please feel free to share them. We're here just discussing and just thanking Ben for his time and for his advocacy and his efforts in organizing Latinos across the state of Missouri to show up on February 18th. Let me make sure I get that right. To Hispanic Capitol Day. What are you, for that day specifically? Who are the people meeting? Who are we going to meet with when we're there at the Capitol?
Yeah, so Hispanic Capitol Day is broken down into two parts. So in the morning, all of the delegation will meet together for a morning conference that will give us an opportunity to have elected officials come out and speak with us. The agenda is still tentative, just because even though it's 2 weeks away for elected officials, that's still pretty far away. But we have elected officials that come out and speak with our delegation, our entire delegation, including the lieutenant governor will be joining us for that conversation. It will also give a space for people to connect with each other from across the state. We want folks from Kansas City meeting people from St. Louis, meeting people from Springfield, because there's so much opportunity to share knowledge and collaborate. And then we'll have lunch together. In the afternoon, we will go to the Capitol building, and everybody will be assigned into small groups based on who their representatives are. So, for example, for myself, I will be assigned to meet with representative, and anybody that lives near me, we will be assigned as a group to meet with House members and senators that represent me. And so that's why we need everybody to register. so that we can be sure to put you in groups with your elected officials, because that, like you said, that's the most important part, that elected officials are meeting with their constituents.
So I have issues that I want to share with the lieutenant governor. Is that going to be a space for me to be able to share those issues, or is it going to be more of a listen and learn kind of session with the governor?
In the morning session, it's more listen and learn. There will be a Q&A part
Cool.
that's going to be, brief, but there will be opportunity for participation.
Yeah. One thing that I appreciate you also mentioning is that there are a lot of other issues that Latinos and Hispanics do agree on, right? So you were talking about workforce and you were talking about safety, and I would offer education. I think
Mhm.
from Revolución Educativa's perspective, the data is bleak, and I know that there's been recent release of NAEP scores that don't show any improvement from our COVID days, and of course that impacts Latino students heavily in some cases in their ability to one, receive the quality education that they deserve, and then two, the ability to to in some ways get out of the cycles of poverty that we see in this country, right? And so I think about these issues. One issue that I really care about is that 8 out of 10 Latino students in the state of Missouri do not read on grade level after third at the third grade, right? And that has huge consequences for our community, right? That is an indicator of the school to prison pipeline. We know that when students from pre-K to 3, they're learning to read. From grade 3 beyond, they're reading to learn. And so if you don't have access to literacy, like it's just wow, like the negative impact on your life is incredible. And so those are issues that we care about, in addition to immigration and workforce and all these other things.
Absolutely. And there's two bills or three bills in particular that I think people should be aware of, that actually are good bills that people should get behind. In the House Bill 427 and House Bill 741, those are bills that were introduced to allow students, like DACA students, to pay in-state tuition. So Missouri is one in 10 states where if you're a DACA student, you would have to pay out-of-state tuition, even if you are a resident of Missouri. In similar line, House Bill 811 would allow DACA students who are nurses to be licensed to work in Missouri. There was a situation last year around August or September where a Latino nurse who's a DACA student was refused nursing licensure. And so she had to go out of state to work. Someone who had completed all their studies, was a bright student, but yet couldn't work in Missouri because they weren't getting her licensure. So this bill would not allow that to happen again.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing, and the more advocacy and support that we get around that, the better, because we understand, again, another way that immigrants and folks with different statuses are contributing positively to the state. I also think a lot about just the narrative, right? I think we hear a lot of narrative at the national level that trickles down to the state and the local level around just the criminalization of immigrants, the 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 removal of dignity, right? We are talking about people who have come to this country looking and seeking looking for and seeking better opportunities, right? Like this, it's not an easy journey to get to this country. One thing that I get angry about is that, I think America has a phenomenal like marketing plan, right? We tell the
Mhm.
rest of the world that we are the best country in the world. We tell the rest of the world that like this is a great place to be. And then we are surprised when people show up, and then we are fully unprepared to receive them in a way that actually helps support their journey into this country. And so it happens at the local level, it happens at the state level, it happens at the national level. But that's why I think initiatives like yours and Hispanic Capital Day is so important, because that proximity to the people is critical in maybe changing minds and hearts around what's possible.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, I think there's a lot of grieving that is done by people who come to the United States wanting to have their American dream, seeing that this is a place for immigrants, to realize that they're being other, they're being excluded from opportunities. And I know I went through that where I felt betrayed by the American system because I had come to the United States, fell in love, thought I was, doing the best that I could, only to realize that I wasn't wanted.
Mm,
And so there's a grieving process that I think some of us go through that we have to heal from, but then also realize that we got to change this.
yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, that is a difficult truth, right? I think um and I see that a lot of my friends and family and colleagues, like that is a difficult truth that sometimes they have to carry with and still push forward, right? It's wild. Um, well, we are nearing our time. Anything that you would like to share with our community around the event, or any other kind of thoughts or feedback that you have about what currently is happening in our community?
Yeah, so I would just like to encourage everybody to remain calm, but also look for opportunities to support the immigrant community in this time. There's so many amazing organizations in St. Louis, in Kansas City, and Springfield doing really good work that are concerned about losing funding. There's opportunity to fundraise for them, to donate to them, to give your time and volunteer with them. You can be involved in the legislative process by reaching out to your elected officials, whether it's by phone, email. I think there's so much opportunity for us to be engaged, actively engaged in doing something right now. So if you're looking for that opportunity, connect with folks like Revolución Educativa, connect with Hispanic Leaders Group. We'd be happy to give you ideas just because there's so much to do.
Yeah, absolutely. The invitation is open, and it is open all the time to engage. And one, I appreciate the work that you're doing. Thank you for the energy and time and commitment that you're placing in this moment in organizing all of us, all Hispanic Latinos in the state of Missouri, to show up on February 18th. I think I'll go back into the comments and make sure that the links are there if people want to sign up to join us again on February 18th for Hispanic Capital Day. Is there going to be food there?
Yes, there's going to be food. Your registration covers food, covers all the documents. We're going to have a grand old time.
Awesome. I think it's good to clarify. I get hungry and it's a long drive. So, uh,
Yes, we'll have food and snacks to make sure that and water to make sure that people are, taken care of.
awesome. Well, Ben, thank you so much for your time today. We sincerely appreciate it. And those who have joined us today, thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. Let us know if you have any questions. Feel free to type those in the comments, and then we will be responsive. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day.